To start off, we'll have a brief look at each of the 9 markers in the system, and then we'll get down to a final level of detail and have a look at the function of each of the markers. IALA stands for the International Association of Lighthouse Authorities, and we use Buoyage System A, which is a system used throughout Australia and New Zealand, Europe, Africa, some Asian countries and the Gulf. There are 9 markers in this system. Let's have a look at the functions of each. The 2 most common markers are the channel markers, in other words your port and starboard markers. Another name for that is your lateral marks, and they mark the channels. Another set of marks are the cardinal marks, which use the compass or the cardinal system, and they tell you to pass to the north, the south, the east or the west. So they tell you which side to pass. Now special marks are used to indicate channel intersections. They can also be used on the edge of sandbanks, on the edge of reefs and shoals. The idea of it is whenever you see a special mark, if you're not sure what's happening, then you look at your chart. The next marker is a safe water mark, which indicates where the water is safe. And the last marker we have is our isolated danger mark, which indicates where it's dangerous. They're the 9 markers in our buoyage system. Just to recap, we've got port and starboard markers, which tell us where the channels are. We've got our cardinal marks, which tell us which side to pass. We've got special marks, which tell us where anything special is happening. Safe water marks, which indicate that the water is safe. And isolated danger marks, indicating that it's dangerous. So let's get down to business and have a more detailed look at the function of each of the 9 markers. You can see an example here of a starboard marker. Notice starboard markers are green and they've got a triangular or a cone shape. Port markers are red and they've got a square or a can shape. And this is how they're represented on a metric chart. You can see the starboard markers are coloured green with a triangular top mark, and port markers are coloured red with a square top mark. You can see the markers are indicating this little channel leading in. As we headed up this channel, we'll be keeping the greens on our right and the reds on our left. If we were heading the other way down the channel, you'd notice we'd be keeping the markers on the opposite side. We'd be keeping the greens on our left and the reds on the right. You might notice a little arrow on the right-hand side of the screen there. That arrow indicates the buoyage direction. So if we're going the same direction as the arrows, we keep the greens on our right and the reds on our left. If we're going the opposite direction to the arrows, then we're going against the buoyage system. So we keep the greens on our left and the reds on our right. Now home port needs to be explained. The buoyage direction of your lateral markers always works towards home port. Now home port might be the Port of Brisbane or the Port of Melbourne or the Port of Sydney. It might also be your local boat ramp. It might be a local marina. So if you're heading towards that place, you'll keep your greens on your right and your reds on your left. But if you're heading away from home port, you'll still travel in the same channel, but you'll be going against the buoyage direction, so you'll be keeping your reds on your right and your greens on your left. In a river system, home port is always inland towards the centre of Australia. So as you head upstream in a river system, you'll be keeping your greens on your right and your reds on your left. And if you're heading downstream towards the ocean, then you'll be keeping the reds on your right and the greens on your left. Okay, I've drawn up on the whiteboard here just a diagrammatical view of a channel system, very simple one. So imagine we're coming down here. The buoyage system heading down this main fork of a river is heading from the top down to the bottom here, down this way. And if it wanted to, it could go all the way down. That's fine. Let's just say that we wanted to come in here. Notice as we travel down here, we're keeping the green markers on our right and the red markers on our left. So we're going with the buoyage system, and if we did a right-hand turn into this side channel, we're still keeping the green markers on our right and the port marker. We're still keeping the starboard markers on our right and the port markers on our left. So as we come down, we're keeping the starboard markers on our right and the port markers on our left. So we're going with the buoyage system in this direction. Now if we had another boat travelling up from this direction, it would be keeping its green markers on its left and its port markers, its red markers on its right. So it's going against the buoyage system. And again, if it did a left-hand turn into that side channel, it's in a new channel system. It's now greens on the right, reds on the left. So the buoyage direction is swapped over. So down here, it's going against the buoyage direction. Once it turns into this side channel, it's now going with the buoyage direction. And to mark a channel intersection, you'd expect to find a special mark out on the water. Now the next mark we're going to have a look at is a special mark. Now the special marks are the good guys. They'll save you from running aground. They're used to indicate channel intersections, which might also incorporate a change of buoyage direction. They can also be used on the edge of sandbanks and on the edge of reefs and shoals. They can also be used where a pipeline enters the water, or if there is any temporary dredging occurring in an area, that area would be ringed by special marks. The idea of it is, whenever you see a special mark, if you're not sure what's happening, then you look at your chart. Here's a good example on a chart of a special mark showing 2 channels intersecting. If you've been coming down this way and reached this spot, Here's a special mark to show you can either take this channel or take this other channel. The special mark here indicates a channel intersection. Now the next marker in the system is a safe water mark. As I mentioned earlier, safe water marks indicate safe water, in other words deep water, and they're used for navigational reference to indicate that you're at a particular location. Now an easy way to remember a safe water mark is that it's red and white, just like the red and white candy stick pole that they used to stick out in front of men's barber shops. They used to do that back in the old days to attract kids in to buy lollies. So an easy way to remember a safe water mark is it's red and white, just like a candy stick pole, good and happy, and it's safe for kids. And here's how a safe water mark is represented on a chart. You can see it's red and white with one red ball on top. And the last mark we have is an isolated danger mark. You can see that an isolated danger mark is coloured red and black with two black balls on top. The idea of an isolated danger mark is it would indicate a smallish reef area. The idea being that if you keep 50 to 100 metres away from that place, then you'll be okay. Now you might notice with this example here out in the water, this isolated danger mark doesn't have two black balls on top. The top marks, in this case the two black balls on a danger mark, are only used on occasion. Where it's not needed, they don't bother to put them there. Here's an example of how an isolated danger mark looks on a chart. You can see it's red and black bands with two black balls on top. The Hope Banks is a little reef area which comes up to within a couple of feet of the surface. The idea of it is that there's navigable water all around, but this little reef area is in the middle of all that, so they've put a danger mark there to say you can pass either side of it and all around it, but just don't go near it. Now an easy way to remember an isolated danger mark is that it's red and black, just like a redback spider. It's got two black balls on top, so it's a redback spider with two black eyes. Nasty thing, keep away from it. Now the last set of markers we haven't yet looked at in our group of 9 are the cardinal marks. Now cardinal marks tell us which side to pass. So if it was a north cardinal mark, we pass to the north. East cardinal mark, we pass to the east. South cardinal mark, we keep to the south. And west cardinal mark, we pass to the west. You'll notice that the cardinal marks are coloured yellow and black. Now there are different sequences of the yellows and blacks. You'll also notice that each cardinal mark has two triangles on top. Now the idea of it is that if it's a north cardinal mark, the triangles point up. South cardinal mark, the triangles point down. East cardinal mark, the tips of the triangles point away from each other, so it's shaped like an egg. It's skinny at both ends and fat in the middle, so E for egg. And a west cardinal mark, you notice the tips of the triangles point towards each other. It resembles a wine glass, or if you put those triangles on their side, you could draw a W, so W for west. Now the idea of the colours is that the black follows the way the triangles point. So for a north cardinal mark, the triangles point up, so it's black up. East cardinal mark, the tips of the triangles point away from each other, so it's black at either end. South cardinal mark, the triangles point down, so it's black down. And west cardinal mark, the tips of the triangles point towards each other, so it's black in the middle. Here's an east cardinal mark, the tips of the triangles are pointing away from each other, so it's shaped like an egg, skinny at both ends and fat in the middle. Here's a west cardinal mark, tips of the triangles pointing towards each other, so it's shaped like a wine glass, or if you put those triangles on their side, you could draw a W. Here's a north cardinal mark, tips of the triangles pointing up, so we pass to the north of it. And here's the south cardinal mark, both triangles pointing down, so we'd pass to the south of it. Here's a representation on the chart. Here's a west cardinal mark. You can see yellow, black, yellow. Tips of the triangles pointing towards each other, so it's shaped like a wine glass. Here's an east cardinal mark. Tips of the triangles pointing away from each other, so the top marks are shaped like an egg. Notice the colours, black, yellow, black. Here's a north cardinal mark. Both triangles pointing up. Notice the colours, black up, so we pass to the north of it. And here's the south cardinal mark. Notice the tips of the triangles pointing down, so we pass to the south of it. If you're using an Admiralty chart, the charts aren't colour-coded as they are with a metric chart, so you've got to use a bit of nous to work out what the different markers are. The example you're seeing on the screen there is that the starboard markers have got a G underneath them and the port markers have got an R underneath them. Well, that makes it easy. You can also notice the top marks. The port markers have got a square top mark indicating a port marker. The starboard markers have got a triangular top mark indicating a starboard marker. In this example here, there's no letter underneath the marker indicating the type of marker it is, so you'd have to use the top mark. Notice this one's got a square top mark. That would indicate a port marker. The markers we're looking at here in the chart are special marks. You might notice there's a little X on the top of each marker. That X is the top mark for a special mark. And this one's an easy one. Two triangles pointing down on our Admiralty chart. That's a south cardinal mark. Pass to the south of it. And there we have it. That's the complete set of markers in our buoyage system. Just to recap, We've got port and starboard markers showing us where the channels are, cardinal marks telling us which side to pass, special marks telling us where anything special is happening, safe water marks telling us where it's safe, and isolated danger marks telling us where it's dangerous. That's all there is to it.